and I was a science student. You know, in Ghana here, science basically in Ghana, most of the time is about chew and pour.
Right.
So I could really chew a lot of formulas.
Okay.
They used to call me Stickcosta, like something that sticks. So
okay.
It went through naming metamorphosis and it came to sticker.
Okay, got you.
But you know, Kumasi, instead of sticker, they say sticker.
All right. So you see, the way you're saying it with pride is because it's a good one.
Oh, I also had a bad one, I'll tell
you. Former Minister, Deputy Minister, obviously, in what was probably one of the hottest seats for a number of years because of the nature of the work.
Yeah.
So some of the challenges that you faced, particularly in finance, what would you say that they were?
My regards to our listeners this very morning and our viewers as well. Definitely, anywhere you find yourself, you have challenges. But because I spent just not a lot of time there, I mean, I would say a few months there. So, but then, we're confronted with this whole thing about meeting the indicative targets between Ghana and IMF. It was something which was an inevitable task. So we're very, 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 very busy. And the time that we're supposed to continue the work that Honorable Kenufo-Atta had done to make sure that we restore the economy, restructure it, and make sure that most of the bottlenecks were removed and put the economy on a very befitting and sound platform. So we're working. I mean, the time resource was not enough for us. And definitely we had our own other things that we're doing. So we had to work under pressure, honestly. And people were making various forms of demands, institutions, public and private and stuff like that. So, I mean, after COVID, most economies in the world were struggling to restore what had been lost as a result of the crisis. So that is basically what I can talk about.
Right. And if you're talking about the COVID, everybody, unfortunately, uses the COVID. Several other governments have used COVID. Is it a good enough excuse, COVID?
I think one problem in our country, I want to establish this preamble, is that you see the work you're doing. If you place me where you are, I can't perform the way you perform. Okay? But one problem in Ghana is that apart from medical doctors, even some medical doctors, people challenge them. When technical people are explaining issues, nobody wants to listen. So it's very difficult. Nobody will say that COVID is the only difficulty or causative factor or whatever it is. But trust me, the adverse impact of COVID and the Russian-Ukraine war on the global economy, including Ghana, was so massive. It was so profound. It's not something that you can underestimate or heap scorn on in terms of its potential on what we went through, except those who want to do politics.
Right.
Because a situation where private sector in our country alone had to sack over 40,000 people. We have revenue shortfall of about 12 billion. Anyway, I'm over 50 years. I've never seen in the history of this country that public service and private service workers or actors had been asked to stay home by a particular government, yet they were paid. So we had impaired productivity. Nothing was working on our market. We were not able to generate revenue domestically. So we're depending on debt financing, borrowing. Definitely your debt to GDP will go up. In fact, the world even grew negative 3.3 that time. We grew about 0.4, 0.5. So it's something that generally was an uncontrollable factor. Of course, we had other issues, but predominantly it was the COVID.
Yeah, but how long is that going to affect you? I mean, what sort of time frame would you give yourself? I know it was...
But we are recovering. I mean, we grew 0.4, 0.5. And now, just before NPP government left power, we were growing almost twice as 2016. In fact, 2016, we were growing without any COVID issue. We were growing 3.4. By the time we left power, we were growing close to 7%.
Right.
So definitely, I mean, interest rate had come down, primary balance. In fact, inflation rate went to as far as 54.1. And we came down to around 20%. Not that all these indicators were okay, but we had done, I mean, remarkably well as a government or as a country. And it's a process. You couldn't have attained everything at the same time. And we were even running all the pro-poor policies. We were still paying workers. So I think we need to even glorify God.
You see the pro-poor policies. This you're not the desire to continue with social interventions, even in the midst of this kind of crisis. Was it an appropriate response?
It depends on where you're coming from. Could we have ended free school? No. Could we have ended free school? No. Could we have ended providing electricity? No. Could we have ended providing water? No. And that is why the president then, former President, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, made a very, I call that prophetic statement, that for the economy, we can bring it back, even if it goes down. But if we lose a life, there's no way we could recover, we could restore. And honestly speaking, although some people die in the country, which I extend my condolences to the family members, we all lost people. Other countries lost, the fatalities were far more than Ghana. I mean, Ghana was counted as one of the few countries that could manage COVID in terms of life savings, in terms of fatalities. So that one, we're not talking about this. Ghanaians were asked to stay home. They were paid. You remember?
Yeah.
So definitely your economy would go bad. Your debt to GDP will increase. This is something that, except those who think, I mean, because of politics, they want to ignore facts and figures, and they want to ignore probably their moral status or whatever it is. I don't know even the vocabulary to use here. And they want to do just politics, and they think there is no God. But honestly, but the world grew, the world's inflationary rate, averagely post-COVID, was over 200%. Right. UK and US moved from about 1%, some to 8% to 11%, and we depend on their economies. So sometimes, let's be very practical, and let's be truthful with the situation. I hope you understand what I'm saying.
I understand what you're saying.
Then we can give thanks to God and build on what we have.
All right. So, but you see, the thing is, obviously the economy, what people are able to eat or afford to buy to eat is going to be the way the majority of people look at the situation, because it's very personal. Would you say that your government was understood how bad the situation was, and that they were on the path to rectifying it? Would you say that honestly?
You need to come again, please.
That, people, ordinary people, are not understanding the major dynamic, say, of COVID or international markets or economies and everything else. To them, I'm surely you understand why they feel that the economy was there was a problem with the economy, or the country was not being.
But all the time there are problems with our economy,
right?
Except that probably it was severe COVID time, if you want to put it in that sense. Because if everything had been okay, why did we need free school? About 100,000 young ones were staying home because the parents did not have money. Why did we need national health insurance? People were dying because of cash and carry. Economy that I describe Ghana's economy as negative effective tax rate economy. Do you understand that? Whether COVID or no COVID, whether government A or B, monies outlaid every year by the government. It doesn't matter who is in government. If we divide the total amount by or among the households in Ghana, the amount each of them gets, generally, most of the times, or even all the time, almost all the time, is far more than the amount that government generates every year, excluding loans. So we are always generally running a deficit economy. So definitely there are problems. We import almost everything. So global economic crisis or inflation definitely translate into what we go through here. These are the protocol things or practicalities that whether NDC or NPP, whether Kojo or Ama, whether Asaase or Joy, whether Peace FM or whatever, whether a pastor or a Muslim, we should accept these fundamentals. Then we can build this country. But if we keep on recycling the propaganda we don't feel in our pocket, is this. When the inflation went to about 54.1, people were blaming us. When it came down to about 20, they say, oh, but it doesn't reflect in the pocket. So it looks like a lot of Ghanaians are basically always looking out for faults to only talk about, but not praises.
Okay.
So we can build on the good things that we are doing.
Right. Policies and decisions. Historically, the NPP is not a social interventionist. It's not even socialist in any way. It's about empowering. Right. So with that knowledge, why would you engage in policies and decisions that are clearly, and I'm going back to the same question I asked again, when maybe if you had created more wealth, it would have dealt with some of these issues, and then you'd have been able to do the social interventions in a more affordable way.
So do you really understand pragmatism?
You've asked. I understand.
So let me tell you something. You are the type of person who have a special policy, and your policy is that you eat only vegetables, and you are sick, you are not well, all your kids are sick. I mean, just hypothetically, sorry, and doctor diagnoses a type of disease that needs a little amount of fish. You say that, oh, my house policy is that you not eat anything fish, and you die. You are not a prudent manager of any society or the economy. We are a developing economy. 100,000 people were staying home every year. If in 10 years' time, there are going to be 1 million without any education, about 70% of such people might have ended up in a situation that will become liabilities to our country or in our country. About 50% probably would have become armed robbers, insecurity.
Yes.
They would have given birth to kids who would have gone through the same social process or path. Is it prudent to say that you are capitalistic in nature? You allow these things to deteriorate and destroy your country and put your country in perpetual jeopardy? You want to tell me that cash and carry, people were dying? A certain woman's husband was treating her badly when I was young. She used to attend my church, Assemblies of God. And then she got pregnant. The time she was about to deliver, the husband ignored her. By the time people got to know, and they sent her to the hospital. They asked them to bring money. It was at dawn. When they came back for money and went back to the hospital, the woman had died. Is that the situation you wanted? So pragmatism supersedes even capitalistic or socialistic, especially in a developing economy such as Ghana, where when it comes to human development index, it's extremely essential. That is why education and health are very key in any economy. And that is why the NPP government under former President Kufuor and former President Nana did not joke with health and education. That is how you build a country. Check the history. The UK's democracy is over 500 years. They went through some of these processes. UK still does NHIs. So what are you talking about? So please, I think we need to have a new paradigm shift. We need to redefine our corporate focus. Not the present government is doing, but even just issuing any statement left and right in the name of political capital, to the extent that we manage the economy criminally.
Well, this
is dangerous.
Are you surprised by that sort of language? Because honestly, if I inherit and what I see before me is debt upon debt, and there's no seeming end to the debt, am I not free?
But we also inherited debt.
Well, I mean, we're not playing for tit for tat.
No. So that is why you don't have to say that. I just explained to you the type of economy we run.
Right.
In fact, I haven't checked lately, but the last time I checked, people who pay direct tax, like you and I, myself, Nanaya, that they take directly from our, like we do payee. They take taxes directly from our pay.
Yeah.
I mean, we are just less than 3 million out of 34 million people. Indirect tax has a lot of challenges, or taxes have a lot of challenges, from small base, and then loopholes, corruption along the chain by all. Some are government workers, public servants, businessmen. You can name all of them. So we are always generating extremely few. Then we go to a period where we had revenue shortfalls, not the fault of the government. Corporate taxes went down, payee went down, Private sector shut down. They were not working. Government had statutory obligations. We had to manage school. We had to manage electricity. We had to manage energy as a whole. We had to manage agriculture. We had to manage health. We had to manage water. Yeah. We had to manage infrastructure. All these things were there. You either use debt financing or you use revenue you generate. A situation arose that you do not have enough revenue. Will you let your case die? Will you say that your family should die because your job has gone bad and there's no money when you can borrow to take care of them so that when you get a job, you settle or you allow your kids to die? I mean, I think, let's not joke. It's just like this whole thing about DDEP. I mean, it's just like that. What is the option for or solution? The best solution for a holdout situation in any country? Holdout is a situation where the issuer of the bond or the debt or loan has gotten to the level that there is nothing that issuer can do in paying back. You extend the maturity date. You deal with the coupons or the interest.
Yeah,
and these are the, of course, the holders will not be happy.
Of course.
Oh no, they will not be happy. They are right. But you have to also accept the fact that it is not entirely the fault of the issuer.
But I don't have to accept that.
I agree.
When you took
I'm not saying
money,
accept, but sometimes, I get you. Maybe I'm on the same page with you.
Yeah.
But sometimes people, based on these things, out of politics, they lie to the people. Right now, your child is sick. The only solution you have is a type of medicine that is better. It can let your child get nausea. Your child will not be happy. Even sometimes the mothers are not happy that the child will be crying. If you don't give, the child will die. If you give, the child will not be happy. It's not the child's fault that he's not happy with you as a father. But you're doing something that will offer more permanent, sustainable health situation or condition for your child. So most of these things, probably we could not explain and offer better communication to attain the needed cascading effect.
Right.
I hope you understand what I'm saying.
And
so we suffered
exactly
for
what
that.
I was going to ask you. Your failure to communicate appropriately.
And I don't want to, boss, I don't want to revisit this because maybe if I revisit, I get trouble with my people.
Right.
Meritocracy. Sometimes we should learn a lot of lessons. You see where you are standing, what you are doing. I said, I can't do it. But in politics alone, it's not about who can do what best. The kind of policy we do in Ghana, whether in DC NPP, it's not about who can do what best. It's about somebody's interest. It's about somebody's relationship with another. It's about somebody going to lie to you. Sometimes they blame Nanado. I'm not saying that people who blame him, they are wrong or right. Maybe they had their own reasons. But we ourselves lied to him as a president. He's one person. And if we lie to him about each other, and that influences some of his decisions, then you are the same people come back to say that, oh, the president did that, president did that. Internally, what did you go and tell the president? What kind of people did you present to the president to choose from? I don't know, you understand what I'm saying? Because communication in Ghana, sometimes there should be a new shift. The kind of people you are dealing with, different segments along the social stratification, the way my mother understands politics, and some things are different from you and myself, even you and me. The way, or you and I, the way we understand things might be different. So the same information should be presented in different ways. Look, when NDC raises any issue in this country, see how it stays in the public space for a long time. You check the NDC, even when they are lying, it becomes an issue and everybody believes them. When we have even genuine issues, facts and figures, after press conference, it ends there. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
I understand what you're saying.
Even in Parliament, see the NDC guys. Outside Parliament, see the NDC guys. On major big platforms, see the NDC guys. They have about 7 people that you can name there now, that they use them for their communication before any other thing comes. By an MPP, oh, you have spoken, this person has to speak. I want this person to go. It's not you. People are playing with committees, not parliament committees, so even party or government committees that will communicate, information management. They know that you are very good. You've been in the game for long. You understand the propaganda. You understand the technical issue. You know this. They will not even include you because people think you have to be marginalized for their interest. And that's why we have, because the work that Nanado's government did. My brother, if we have been able to communicate very well I'm not sure. Even if we were going to lose the election, the kind of dignity and reputation would have kept as a fraternity. I know it will come. The time will come. People will see the work in another date.
All right. So
you understand what I'm saying? But basically, we had our own internal issues.
Okay. So you're going to tell me, you've read this. I think you've read the statement, or at least you've heard parts of what President John Mahama.
Now we run the economy criminally.
Yes, criminally. And I want you to speak to that. What would cause it? Obviously, he's been a president before. He knows these things. He knows that managing an economy is not an easy thing. But if he makes that kind of statement, surely it must come from a place of he's a little bit shocked by what he's seen. So what are you going to say to him? What would account for him saying something like that?
Well, where I disagree with you is that you are not speaking on issues of probabilities. You say definitely maybe what he's seeing
is making him.
Maybe he's also not seeing anything bad, but he's doing politics. I don't want to. I mean, that statement to me is a rebuttable statement that he made.
Right.
One thing about the economy is that it's so beautiful because it's about numbers.
Right.
Inflation, if it's 10, is 10. If GDP is 4, it's 4. In fact, put all together about any economy is the GDP. You have the primary macro indicators and the secondary macro indicators. The GDP that His Excellency President John Mahama left for Nanado's government to take over in 2016 was growing at 3.4%. Can you ask the sitting president respectfully that what was the GDP growth that we left, and even now against 2016? We left 6.3, which is about almost twice what he left.
With what kind of debt, though?
Boss, let's deal with. If you ask me this, what kind of? Well, let me give the figures. You cannot say that he said the economy is bad, and I told you that if we sum all together, it's about the GDP. Because you have other indicators, some will be good, some will be bad. But he's saying that we run it criminally. But the economy that we left for him as a whole is growing at almost as twice as his. Then you're asking me debt. I'll come to the debt.
Okay.
I'm not saying every single indicator we did well. But even the debt, I explained to you why our debt went up.
I understand. But
so no, I'm telling you, I'm explaining why even our debt went up. In fact, NDC's debt to GDP was about 70-something%. And then after rebasing the economy, it came 55% thereabout. So even they were not doing anything too extraordinary, even without all the challenges. I told you why our debt went that high. Look, industry was growing, agriculture was growing 2.7%. Agriculture was growing 2.7%. I have the figures here. We left 4.5%. I stand to be corrected. 4.5%. Industry was growing 4.3%. We left industry growth of 8.9%. Services was growing 2.8%. We left services growth of 5%. So how could you move on primary balance? In fact, inflationary rate was growing 15.4%. We left inflationary rate averagely 20%, which was a little bit higher than this.
Right.
But we had moved inflation from 54.1 to that level. So if you look at even primary balance, trade balance, all those things, most of the primary indicators, we left a better condition or indicators. We left, better indicators than 2016. These are facts.
Yeah.
So push the NDC guys, bring statistical services, bring Bank of Ghana, let them provide these comparative figures.
Yeah,
I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say.
What you're saying.
Then we will know whether the president is doing this in good faith or bad faith.
Right. Okay. But
I cannot say that because I respect him. He's my president.
But we're here in 2025, and we can speak to everything that happened 8 years ago, 9 years ago, as many times. But today, and now then I want you to address the issue of debt. And I get it. I still understand COVID and the challenges and where we had to find money to deal with it. But how much of it can we attribute purely, solely, and only to COVID?
If you tell me to give you 10 cedis 30 cedis. You know I cannot give you that. You know I cannot give you that. But what I'm trying to say is that you're also the media giants. All of you have been talking about COVID gave us money. COVID gave us money. By now,
not all of us. We have
no. Okay, I mean generally, it doesn't mean everyone.
No.
It's a general statement. There are exceptions. What it means is that people want to use that for propaganda. I think those who are criticizing, because the onus of proof is always on those who are alleging. I mean generally, even in law, they should find out how much did COVID give us, and how much was our obligation as a government, and how much damage did COVID do to Ghana. You cannot just make any blanket statement that, oh, COVID gave us so much, World Bank gave us so much. And that is what the NDC, they've been using all these while to deceive Ghanaians. And when they come to power, they can't do much. When they come to power, they can't do much. They don't have any. Look at what is the policy of the NDC? Tell me right now. It's good you were talking about the fact that we are capitalistic, which we're supposed to only concentrate on capitalistic policies. We veered into social issues. The NDC guys, okay, we are supposed to adopt in economics something called expansionary fiscal policies that will enable us solely promoting, enhancing, and building the private sector so that they will expand to employ people and grow the economy, just as you were saying beautifully. And I said that as a result of pragmatic measures, looking at prevailing challenges, sometimes you can move into the middle space more. And by doing that, you consider your situation and come out with pro-poor policies to make room for these things, to avoid any future liabilities. The NDC guys, as socialistic as they are, none of the pro-poor policies of national character or in character or tenacity had been implemented by the NDC government. Never. It's just about the propaganda and the lies. NHIS, when we're passing it, they walked out of parliament. When it became successful, they started in Techiman, as usual. Techiman and Kransa, they were started by Catholics, not NDC. The same they want to do the free school. They rubbished the free school policy by Nanato. When they realized that Ghanaians were buying into it, it was going to give up. They said, oh, we will start. We did progressively. That year, they only made budget allocation of 25 million. Could that even take care of even just one district? So these are the propaganda stuff that they are talking about. But what I'm trying to say is that in terms of managing the economy and the debt, it's one of the things that we need to handle very well. There are a lot of wrong. Look, let me tell you today. It may interest you. I made a statement on that in Parliament last week and has made the Speaker set up 3 committees: Finance Committee, Economy and Development Committee, and then Budget Committee to liaise with Bank of Ghana. Because, you know, some of our difficulties are also there are a lot of wrong fundamentals in this country that NDC NPP over the years, including other stakeholder and relevant bodies, have not been able to solve. Look, I don't know your background in finance and economics. Have you seen anywhere in the world that a particular government can borrow on the domestic market of that country at a higher interest rate than the private sector? It's not done anywhere in the world.
No, well, it would be
where T-bills,
irresponsible.
Exactly, and it's not done anywhere. T-bill rates are higher than private sector, comparable private sector securities. But Ghana, most of the time, go and check. Even now, go and check. Most of the times,
what accounts for that?
I think it's regulatory and then policy issues. We need to solve that, and it's been going on. These things add up to our economic woes. 2, even the managing inflationary targeted monetary policy, that is policy rate. We've always gotten it. I mean, in management, we call something strategic drift. Strategic drift. It means that you want to attain something, but the strategy that you're using is rather aggravating the problem. Go and check from 2012 up to 2024. About 80% of the times, they try to increase policy rate, that is interest rate, to curtail inflation, yet inflation went up. There are so many issues. We want to cut down expenditure all the time, whether under NDC NPP. How do we go about it? Which and what items do we cut? What numbers have we played with? Elsewhere, before you cut down items, expenditures on certain items, you need to run your regression analysis, co-integration analysis. Let me end with this, would I beg you? Correlation analysis. And then you find the numbers and the percentages. Then you know that if I cut down expenditure on this, it will do 0.001 of the GDP or nothing. So I'm cutting all this. Do we do that or not? So there's so many wrong fundamentals, apart from our attitude and mindset. Right. But the fact is, people who can do most of these things are not allowed.
I'm going to ask you then, moving on from that, then NPP. One of the things that one of the things that seems to have been challenged a lot also was the increasing number of taxes or the invention of certain taxes to sort of ameliorate some of the challenges that the government was facing. Now, would it be fair to say that some of them were just unfair to Ghanaians?
Sorry, no. Which one was not?
I'm not going to mention anyone.
No,
there's e-levy and there's all sorts of taxes.
For all that I've said, I'm sure you should have understood that we even need more taxes. I am telling you for a fact. If you are generating far less than you spend, and your country is always being run into debt, because you are talking about the fact that we are always in debt, which is a very fair comment to make. And now you're also talking about some of the taxes, are they fair? So what do we do with that tax?
Yes, but you're not getting us out of debt when you even add the taxes.
Because of the way, in terms of numerical strength, we plan how we manage a fiscal space. You see, you cannot manage economy all the time based on qualitative theories. No, nowhere in the world. If you want to have sustainable economic management and framework, you manage it qualitatively, and that translates into qualitative aspect. You understand what I'm saying?
Hopefully.
No, if you don't go that way, what do you do? Because you deal with numbers. Look, the fiscal space is where the problem is.
Right.
Government has to spend. There are programs, there are projects. Where do you get the money from? How much do you need? Which of them will you spend on? Which of them you have to spend X, Y, Z? Which of them do you cut? And based on that, how much do you have to generate internally? How much do you have to borrow and add to? These call for serious actuarial science, financial economics, mathematical work, prudent management work. You manage these things with your numbers so that you know where you're heading towards and what you are cutting. But if you do most of them based on qualitative theories and issues, when you are getting lost, you will know.
Right.
And even when you are progressing, you know. So it's like the decisions are basically ad hoc. And ad hoc decisions most of the times have, a lot of arbitrariness. I don't know, huge amount of arbitrariness in the decision.
It's swayed either way based on...
So you deal with the mathematics.
So, but, it's honourable. You can also say, therefore, however, that you can mismanage an economy. If there are two opposing views on how to run that economy, somebody can say you're mismanaging the economy simply because you didn't get it right. You tried a certain way or a certain mix and it didn't work. So if somebody says you mismanaged, have they done something wrong?
Even when you do all things right, we call something risk, uncertainty. Whoever thought that we're going to wake up one day, things that we're importing into Ghana, that cost one item 4,000, will cost 12,000. Who thought about it? Who thought about the fact that a period was going to come that people were going to be asked to stay home, but they will be paid? Who said that the world's inflation rate could go as high as from 1 to about 11, getting to about 300% increase, and we depend on these items? So in spite of everything, but you do things to minimize and reduce your risk exposure, and you have to do them well. And sometimes people who criticize, they don't even understand these things. So they don't even know when to increase taxes, because tax policies are calibrated in nature, depending on your fiscal space. There are times you need to take taxes. There are times you need to reduce taxes. When Anadu took over this country, go and check 2017 budget. About 17 tax items. Either he reduced or totally eradicated them. Some were condom taxes, kaya taxes, medicine imported but not produced in Ghana, real estate taxes, financial service tax. You remember?
Yes.
Then later it started also increasing.
Right.
Between 2014 and 2017, or 16, sorry, NDC government, go and check the budget statement. Number of tax items they increased or introduced amounted to about 26. Probably that time, I'm not condemning them. Maybe the fiscal space at that time, you need to. But sometimes Ghanaians, even those who understand these things, because of underlying political interest, even some are professors, they will speak for NDC or NPP. So Ghanaians get confused. And these are technical areas. But I am telling you, as much as we remain a deficit or negatively effective tax run economy, tax introduction and increment, if well managed, will be far better than we borrowing all the time to jeopardize the future of this country.
Yeah. So how did you fail to manage the tax regime appropriately to get the kind of money you needed?
We say how?
Yeah. How did you fail to do that? You've just
how did we fail?
No. You explained to me the theory of managing.
No, it's very practical. What I said is very practical.
Right. So there it is, practically. But was it done efficiently by the NPP government?
Oh, to a large extent, yes. To a large extent, but we had a lot of issues because of what prevailed. As I think I've explained a lot.
You've explained that.
So then, no. Let me tell you. If you want to move from here to home, you have your plans. Right. You set up, you eat with your family, you have the best car in the world, tested, everything is fine, and you're moving. You set your parameters right. Something can happen on the road that you may not be able to get there efficiently or effectively because of the unanticipated consequences or prevailing issues that occurred. So if you're talking about effectively, it's subjective because or relative. If you look at what Ghana went through, what the world went through, then we did well. But if you look at the impact on Ghanaians as a whole, they will complain, and they were right to complain. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
I've got you perfectly.
It's like you tell your wife, honey, when I marry you, next 6 months, we are going to Miami Beach. We are going to this. Your kids are happy. Yeah, daddy, we are going. Then you start saving enough money. Just before you go, something inevitable happens in the family. And you say, okay, we use the money to solve this situation. Because without that, the whole family is going to collapse. So we can't go to Miami. Maybe we are going to Togo and Ivory Coast. It's not that you are a bad manager of the family, but uncontrollable factors. But your mother, your wife and kids will still not be happy. And they are right if you are not happy. But there's explanation that if you're able to communicate well, they may still keep the confidence they have in you. That was where we made a mistake as a government.
Okay.
I don't know if you understand.
I understand you perfectly.
So Ghanaians were right complaining. There were hardships. There were issues. But honestly, probably if it hadn't been NPP's government, the situation would have been worse.
Okay. People
would have died most. Probably we couldn't have been able to recover so quick the way we have recovered. Probably meeting the indicative target between the IMF would have been different. In fact, the IMF said that I think you couldn't have counted 2 countries that have been able to work out and met the indicative targets and gotten almost all the approval, both staff and executive board level, the rate we had gone as a country. Go and find out. But how do you explain this to Ghanaians? They don't care. They think things are hard, things are expensive, and they are right. But then, do they understand? This is where NPP, we should change. We should stop internal unnecessary competition. I bet these Pele 2 children were playing Black Star. Why? Because they were good players. When you want to parade a team for competition, it's not about somebody's interest. It's not about I like you, I don't like you. It's not about I don't want you to get a fame. It's not like I'm bringing you down. So when we win power, you can do anything and stay in power. But a situation where, okay, it's Abedi Pele's children, so don't stay in. You go away, do this. Then we all keep on suffering. Because you go and meet other teams and they will beat you. How could Ghanaians vote for NDC this way? Because the propaganda the NDC had caught up with them. The hardship that Ghanaians went through, we could not explain well. The great things, the number of things that Nado's government has done for this country, we could not made it properly. I mean, in terms of explanation, to have cascading, when I say cascading effect, along the social stratification, we have different strata. We have different way of understanding issues. What influences every segment decision along the chain is different. Right. Those who haven't been to school, the market women, the teachers, the corporate people who, sometimes when I talk, they're like, oh, sticker, I mean, in key. And when you know, the munchie we have me anti yes, and then you know, why? And one is that we said there, Nana, I go and do this, I go and do that. we don't. Anyway, I don't want to. It's okay.
Anyway,
Let's
it's
leave
all right.
it for God.
We'll leave it at that moment as well, because I know you're busy and you have to get out of here. But
And now they cannot even define the 24-hour economy.
right. Okay. I'm not even going to ask you.
Each of the MPs in Parliament gives different definition. One policy, infinite definitions. Just they don't even know where they are taking this thing to. And this is what the NDC they know how to do best. They will use propaganda. They are still using propaganda in government.
I think you're going to have to give this government a little bit more time before we make a judgment like that.
No, so they should stop the propaganda.
All right.
I'm not ready to do that. I want to give them enough time, as you are saying. So I don't want to judge them. But if they start using propaganda, then we'll expose them.
Okay. All right. Thanks very much, Stephen Amoah. Dr. Stephen Amoah is former Deputy Finance Minister, an MP for Inshasu in the Ashanti region. He popped into the studio to chat with us about President Mahama's recent comments about Ghana's economy, a crime scene, whether that was fair comment. And he's explained why he thinks it isn't fair comment, and in fact explained a lot more about some of the historical antecedents, if you will, of the situation to this point, and why the NPP outgoing government had a lot of challenges, economic challenges.